just do it for Miami Dolphins. The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! Jalen Waddle. It's a Dolphin touchdown. Throwing deep upfield on the near side. Man open. Touchdown! Looking deep. He's got it there. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again. Touchdown! David, tell me what you want to do. Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. One, two, three, hit! Let's go!
You're listening to Fin Too Deep.
Tua back to throw. Blitz coming. They get to him. No, he takes off running. And he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. And we are back here for another one on opening day of Major League Baseball. I'm surprised the camera isn't off tilt from the tent that I'm sure Neal Driscoll is pitching over Adley Rushman's performance today, while my Blue Jays are out here freaking struggling right now. Well, not anymore, actually, because we took the lead, but we were struggling. What a game I got over here, bro. 10-9, bottom of the ninth.
Okay.
We took the lead, eh? And that was beautiful while I was doing the notes and stuff. Beautiful stuff. But how you feeling, bro? How's everything going, man? It's been, a couple days since we last were in front of everyone. And we got an interesting show tonight, bro. We got some good topics that we were kind of looking at like, man, what are we going to make out of that to now where I think we're going to put out a good one for the people here. So how are you feeling today, bro?
Start of baseball season. Love it. I'm a Birds fan. So, so we share, we might be the hardest division in football with the Dolphins, the AL East in baseball. There's no question about it. That's the hardest division in baseball in Major League Baseball. NFL draft, less than a month away. Love that. Big WrestleMania weekend here at the house.
Let's go.
My son just got his Cody Rhodes shirt in the mail.
Nice.
So we're gonna be rocking the Cody Rhodes shirt, and we're hosting one day of a party, and then a good friend of ours is hosting the next day. So it's gonna be a blast. So a lot of good things. The only bad thing going on in my world is that the 15-year run of the Washington Capitals being the postseason looks to be over. So got a little bit of kind of tears in
the
my
Penguins.
beard.
The Panthers are behind by 1 point. They played one more game than us, but they're behind us by 1 point. So sorry, South Florida fans, but I'm rooting against your Panthers because I don't know if you saw, but did you see Matt Tkachuk's father, good old Keith Tkachuk, came out and he called the Panthers soft. He said they're getting exactly what they deserve because they're soft. I was like, wow.
I don't want to upset anyone, but last year they had their window, and they really, really missed the boat there. That was definitely that was their time. But I feel
weird not seeing Ovi. It's gonna be weird not seeing. Even though you know how I feel about Ovi, it's gonna be weird not seeing him.
You know what though? I think they'll be right back in the thing next year. I think they're going to spend wisely, add some younger players to the team. It's been needing to happen forever, man. I mean, they've been hanging on to this thing for too long. So it's but hey, man, life's good. Dolphins, it's quiet. Not much going on there. I think we all have seen that the Christian Wilkins negotiations are going on. So it wouldn't surprise me if that gets done before the season, which would be a huge domino to fall. You want to see that guy get wrapped up. I know that we were on here last week saying the business side of it, you never know what's going to happen. I'm glad to hear that they're negotiating a contract. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. But keep Big 94 here because he's kind of like the first pillar of this big rebuild. If with that draft pick, Chris Greer's first kind of as the head in the saddle pick a few years back, and I personally at that time wanted Ed Oliver, and Christian Wilkins turned out to be a better pro. So it's amazing how that works, but it's all quiet in Dolphins land. I think that's a good thing because it means they're focused on the draft. We all know the cap situation that's going to happen after June and kind of the veteran shopping that could happen then. So, I think what we're less than a month away. The draft's right around the corner. I know we're going to embed some of that into tonight's conversation, but man, feeling really good. We're excited about kind of, I hate that we got such a long wait for the season, but, I think the Dolphins are one of those teams that, just even watching them in training camp and stuff like that this year with the level of talent they have, some of the matchups they're going to have. I mean, you're going to have all out wars out there, man. And I was happy to see Calais Campbell not go to the Jets, by the way. I was happy to see him sign with Atlanta because I think Calais is a really good football player, and I don't want the Jets to bolster up that defense any. So all's good, man. How about you?
I'm pretty good. I actually had a Patreon update a couple days ago. And it's interesting because, I've been getting word over the last week, and I've had a couple Patreon updates now about Christian Wilkins. And in that, I was told they're sniffing in that Patreon update. I was told they're sniffing heavily around the interior defensive line market in the draft, surprisingly. And I had a couple other updates. I dropped some names that I've been hearing, a couple interior offensive linemen I'm hearing, a running back name. So it was a pretty big update. But when you talk about Christian Wilkins, I've been hearing that's a market they're quietly sniffing around pretty heavily and doing their due diligence and their research on in this draft. So I find it very interesting. And when I asked, it wasn't in regards to Christian Wilkins. It was more so
Zach Sealer,
but also this could be Raekwon's, are they going to pay Raekwon? Right.
Yeah,
and
this is Raekwon song, I think.
Yeah, shout out to Franklin for the $5 donation. So it's a Raekwon and a Siler thing that has them sniffing around the interior defensive line market in the draft right now. And I dropped some names that I had heard and stuff like that because one name, that I did hear was Broderick Martin. And he is currently, that's a nose tackle. Western Kentucky.
Okay.
And remember who's our assistant defensive line coach now? The Western Kentucky defensive line coach who coached Broderick Martin. That's in the Patreon update. So I go into detail about all that stuff. I'm hearing names, bro. I'm not just hearing, they're sniffing. I'm hearing names. And I dropped a couple in there on the interior defensive line and on the interior offensive line in that Patreon update. So yeah, man, it's real out here on these streets, bro. It's quiet, but it's a little, as Michelangelo once said, as they infiltrated Shredder's compound, it's a little quiet. You know what I mean? So,
I saw one name on the top 30 list that we had a visit with was Carl Brooks from Bowling Green. And that guy's one of the most underrated football players in this draft. He is rough and rugged. He is stout against the run. I saw him as a name that we had, and I was excited because it's always weird, when it comes to the draft, because we all do these mocks and all this stuff off of need, but they always like last year, the Eric Izakama pick, we had signed Cedric Wilson and Tyreek Hill. I would have bet, my house that we weren't going to draft a wide receiver. Sure enough, we did. Right. So it's sometimes, it's they have a love for a player, and it doesn't matter who's there already. They're going to take that player and find a way to make it work. But that is interesting. But I do think that, they do need a true nose tackle for this defense, losing John Jacobs to the Raiders. I think that, and that's a guy you can get in the 6th and 7th round. Spoiler alert, I have them drafting a nose tackle in the 7th round in the mock draft that I'll be publishing next week. Because I think it's something that they need. They need that big body guy that can, eat a couple blockers, free up the linebackers behind them, kind of fill some gaps. And, I think you need one of those guys. And the good news is you don't have to have a big resource in terms of a draft pick, or you don't have to spend a lot of money usually to find them.
What do you think about this interior defensive line class?
It's okay. Obviously,
I'm not really thrilled with it. Like, I'm not really blown away by it. You know what I mean? Other than the top guys, obviously. I mean, who is
right.
Jalen Carter, etc.
I like
But
Jalen Carter and I like Brian Brisset a lot.
yeah,
I am not as big on Kalijah Kancey as most. He's definitely very athletic, explosive, but he's a 280-pound defensive tackle. He's a player that probably will find his name in the first round. I mean, there's some guys. Siaki Ika, I think is how you say it, from Baylor, was a guy who didn't look that good in Mobile, but his tape looked good. Jervon Dexter from Florida is a guy that I like. Jacqueline Roy from LSU is another guy that I think that has some talent. There's Mozzie Smith from Michigan, who's he's got grades kind of all over the place. He's a hell of a football player. I think there's some off-field stuff there with him that makes it an interesting thing. But other than that, it's okay.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Not really. Doesn't really. I think we got other needs, and I think there's other deeper positions where we're going to be picking at. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a position that, like, look, Jalen Carter is going to be going top 10 still. I don't think that's going to change. After that, it's a crapshoot. I don't think we're going to be in the round 2 market there. So I'm not worried about us adding a player at that level.
What are your thoughts? Are you pro trading back into a little back in the third if it can land you? Sorry, a little back in the second. I apologize, if it can land you a late third or a fourth.
Yeah, it all depends on how the board falls, right? Like, I saw Jordan Reed from ESPN, who's a guy that I followed from since he was at the Draft Network, and he had Miami getting Jahmyr Gibbs, and if that's there, and I got to tell you, Reason, I'm really warming up to a guy that, because I don't think Gibbs will be there either. But I'm really starting to get on the Izzy Abanikanda bandwagon. I think
Abanikanda train, yeah.
I think he's a guy, man, that's going to be an absolute.
This guy saw his pro day and fell in love. Tell the truth.
God. I mean, I really liked him, and then I saw his pro day, and I did.
Disgusting.
I really, really did go from liking him to love. Yeah, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. And
that's the thing. I honestly think, after I saw that, I'm not even gonna lie, I went back and I was like, I just went back and I just reaffirmed it. Okay, let's just go through my big board here. Okay, Bijan's my top guy, Jahmyr's my second guy, A-Chain's my third guy, Sean Tucker's my fourth, Charbonnet's my fifth, Roshan Johnson's my sixth, and Ebanikanda's my seventh. I think those guys are all studs, bro. Roshan Johnson is the only one you might be able to debate, and it's because of workload, but there's plenty of games he took over where Bijan didn't, okay? I think either one of those 7 guys is a legit stud. And then you go even further. 8, Zach Evans. 9, Kendre Miller. 10, Tank Bigsby. 11, Tyjae Spears. 12, Dwayne McBride. 13, Mo Ibrahim. 14, Chase Brown. Any one of those 14 guys, I am super happy with.
Yeah, me too.
I think people don't realize how deep this class really is. I love Chase Brown, and he's my 14th guy, and I love Chase Brown. I love what he brings. I just you just rank guys higher based on, some guys go higher because they're more complete to you, right?
Right.
They look more complete. But then you get into the top 7 of these guys, in my opinion, they're all complete. You're just starting to project now, and a lot of that projection we don't know because it's all going to be based on landing environment, playing circumstance, etc., etc. But I look at any one of those top 7 guys, from Bijan to Abanikanda, I would do a backflip for any one of those 7 guys. Backflip. Then from 8-14, I'll stand up and give an ovation. That's how much I like all these guys. You know what I mean? If you really watch the tape, which I know you do, I'm speaking generally. If you really watch the tape, it's hard. This is one of the harder running back classes in recent memory for me to position guys.
Oh, and
it was really hard.
There's guys that, like Kenny McIntosh from Georgia is another good player. Chris Rodriguez from Kentucky. There's guys, man, and
that's 6. You just named McIntosh is my 19th, and Rodriguez is what, my 16th or 17th.
Right.
And I'm still okay. I'm okay with those guys. I still think they're talented, but this class is just so freaking deep. And we've been telling people this since the last offseason, Neal, that this class is ridiculously deep. And when you actually dive into it blows your mind. Like, that's why I'm ranting and going on about it, because it's just so freaking deep.
I hate that our offensive line is in the position it is, because I think the way to win this draft is tight end, get Sam LaPorta, and then whatever the best running back there is around 3. I think that's how you make your offense more dynamic. That's like the fan in me that wants, those explosive type players. I know in my heart, though, that they need to utilize one of those picks to fix this offensive line, to add someone to this line. And it kind of is frustrating because you know, if we pass on the running back position this year, Reason, and we missed one of those guys, we did it with the Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Dobbins draft in 20. Or whatever, 2020.
And all we need is another 4th, and we can probably afford. Like, that's the thing. Like, we keep taking away the picks where you hit in the mid rounds, the 4th and the 5th. Like, I know I showed this to you and I posted it to Twitter. You're telling me you wouldn't do a backflip if we had this kind of draft?
Yep.
Like, you're like, Steen can play right tackle, left tackle, interior. Sam LaPorta, I think, has a super high ceiling in this offense. Tyjae Spears, I think, answers our question for fine. They love Juice Scruggs, right? We talked about that, privately. And I think D. Winters at 230 is absolute robbery, to be quite frank with you.
He was a receiver, I think, that migrated over to linebacker. He's one hell of an athlete. Yeah.
Yeah. You know who he reminds me of? Remember Chaz Surratt?
Yeah.
How he was a quarterback who converted to linebacker.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of a lot of similarities. Yeah.
You got on the Vikings, I think. 3rd round pick, maybe.
Yeah. A lot of similarities. So, anyways, you know what I mean? Like, man, I'm telling you, like, I was having a conversation with someone, Neal, and I said, we've set ourselves up where we're not quite there for the luxury picks, but we have so little needs that, like, if we can come out with a right tackle, a tight end, and a running back added to that room in the first 4 rounds, you're now into luxury pick stages where now you're drafting for depth this year with your 6th and 7th round pick and anything you do in UDFAs. And then you're in such a good position where next year you can go draft a corner with your 1st round pick and groom them behind X for one more year. If you want, if him and Ramsey ball out, you can start making those luxury necessity picks. And what I mean by that are, you're filled out, but you start making those picks on those players that you think are the next up for the guy you're going to move off of in a year or 2. You start situating your depth and supplementing the talent that's going to be leaving. That's the goal. You want to put yourself in a position with the draft where you're in the earlier rounds supplementing talent that's going to be leaving next year. That's what winners do. And that's when we get to that. And we're right there, Neal. We're right there, Neal. We're one draft away and an AFC championship run away from. That's the position we're in next year. That's how close we are, Neal.
And I'm with you. I actually think the cornerback position is going to be a position that after this season, Miami should invest in. I think that's going to be to get that young guy. And this isn't a slight on Cater.
Can you tell this person they don't know what they're talking about before I do?
Oh, my God. Yeah, Sam LaPorta is extreme.
He might not even be there at 51. What are you talking about? The guy's like a top 40, top 30 player on a lot of people's big boards.
I'm actually starting to get worried that he's not going to be there.
The guy's got George Kittle vibes all over, bro. All over him, bro.
You know who scares me, Reason, is the Saints with that 2nd round pick they had. I mean, look.
And you got to watch the Bengals. They didn't lock that. They brought in Irv Smith for 1 year.
I'll say this. Sam LaPorta is my favorite pick for the Dolphins right now in round 2 if he's there. That's my A+ pick. Him and Jahmyr Gibbs would be my A+ picks. But, yeah, you know, it's I see a lot of the Sam LaPorta stuff. That's the guy that I want. That's the guy that I want in the draft because I've seen him, the way he moves. It actually, you know who he reminds me a lot of, Reason? Mark Andrews. That's a guy that I would say is my comp for Sam LaPorta, Mark Andrews. And, you know, he'll do some of that dirty work. He's not afraid to mix it up at the line of scrimmage. He's going to be a way better pro than collegiate player.
Wait till he gets an actual quarterback, Neal.
right? He was definitely hampered by the system and quarterback play at Iowa. But yeah, man, I think you bring up a really good point there. The cornerback position is going to be something that after the season you're going to want to get somebody in there to groom behind X and Jalen Ramsey, and they're two pros to groom them behind. Bama's cool. They got a guy Kool-Aid coming out next year, isn't he? So he's probably going to be the number one corner on most people's boards. But yeah, man, I think that you get one of. I want a running back, man. I want a running back. I want them to improve that position, and I think you get a guy that can come in there. Those names you need. It would kind of, when people have pressure from the people behind them, that's when they play their best football. Salvin Ahmed and Myles Gaskin aren't going to make Mostert and Wilson feel any pressure, right? They're not.
Yeah.
You get a guy like Devin A-Chain there. You get Izzy, in there. You get a guy that's going to come to training camp, and they're going to be like, damn, this kid can move. Like, I might not get touches. And that's going to be what we need to see. I really hope they figure a way to add a veteran or something before the draft. What I'm hopeful for is that La'el Collins gets cut from the Bengals and we get him on a really cheap deal. That's what I want.
Take a flyer on him.
Yeah, take a flyer on him. Because Dan Feeney to me is just an upgrade to Michael Dieter. Like, that's
true.
I don't view him as like a high level starter or even an average starter. I view him as more the interior depth guy. I think Kendall Lamb's like the other depth guy. They need a guy who's a qualified starter type that can make Austin Jackson or Liam Eichenberg a depth guy. So that's where, for me, it's like we need one high-quality offensive line to right the ship, because we will have one weak link in that scenario. But if we had Hunt, Connor Williams, Terran Armstead, and just a really good right tackle, like I'm feeling great about this season. You know what I mean? Like, that right tackle position to me, it's paramount that we find a solution. No doubt. We got to get somebody in there. We can't let Austin Jackson's lack of development hamper this offense. I see someone just mentioned Matthew Bergeron. I would love Matthew Bergeron at right tackle. Those are the names of Matthew Bergeron, Blake Freeland, Jalen Duncan.
Those are Blake
names.
Freeland and Bergeron. You got to take at 51. Duncan might be there at 84, but those first two you named probably aren't going to be there at 84.
Yeah, and Blake Freeland's a guy that as the draft progresses, man, that type of athletic score like that we saw, like Zach Kuntz has and Blake Freeland, these guys are in like the top 1% of athletes on the planet. Like, his scores are just really, really strong. He didn't do awful at the Senior Bowl. I saw someone said that he played bad at the Senior Bowl, Blake Freeland. He's definitely needs development, but those athletic traits and his toughness make me excited about him.
Yeah, I agree. So I got to ask you this. Let's get into this. Are the Dolphins, are they following a new offseason blueprint? And the reason why I asked that is because of this, Neal. We've seen, it's gone from stacking and piling picks and building towards the future and always having the future in mind. Even when we started building the roster out, it was always with the future in mind. But since Flores has left, it's totally shifted into let's live for today mentality. We know the Bills coming on Ramsey and these guys down the line. All right. And now it's F them picks. We ain't stockpiling them no more. We'll pick with what we have left when the dust settles. Are we seeing is this the first time in a long time we're seeing the Dolphins operate under an all-in, live for today, worry about the future tomorrow type of blueprint to the offseason?
What I like that they've done is they've given themselves a window for the next 2 to 3 years. And then after that, they have a new window. And I'll explain what I mean. Like right now, Tyreek Hill became available, right? The Dolphins did not have that in their plans. But when he came, we all saw the story between Greer and Mike McDaniel. They pounced on it. Jalen Ramsey, right? That's it seemed like a pipe dream so long ago. But he wanted to be here. So you have to make maneuvers like that when those high quality players are coming. And if you're going to commit to it, you got to go all the way. And that's why you've seen them do that. And what they've really done is they're doing exactly what Baltimore did not do with Lamar Jackson. They are supplementing a quarterback on a rookie deal with superstars. And that's how you win Super Bowls, right? That's how the Seattle did it with Russell Wilson. Because once Tua's getting $40 million, luckily enough for us, that's probably not going to be a killer, right? Like, we'll be able to afford that. But with that said, like, I think they've done a lot of smart moves. The 5th-year option to Tua makes him a $23 million player for what someone that I have as a top 10 quarterback in football. That's tremendous value. Daniel Jones is getting $40 million to be a bottom 7 quarterback in football, right? And, the only question marks we all have with Tua is, can he stay available? Well, the beauty of it is in a horrific situation, if he didn't, right, and Tua couldn't stay on the football field, there's not a lot of dead money for the Dolphins to get away from. You know what I mean? It's a move that they can go, this is a Super Bowl ready roster, and they can plug and play someone in there to go win it. And it's a really smart move. And, I think we all want, the quarterback that's in place to do that. But, like, it's smart business to not, tie yourself into one player, especially on that rookie deal. So I think they've done a great job. And what I mean is, after this 3 years, after we win one Super Bowl in the next 3 years, that's what I'm saying we're going to do. Well, then we're like $170 million under the cap. We're going to have Jalen Phillips, Jalen Waddle, Javon Holland that are going to be the next phase of this football team. Jalen Waddle is going to be the Tyreek Hill, right? You're going to have Javon Holland be like the Xavier Howard. And then you're going to have Jalen Phillips be like the Bradley Chubb. And, then you're going to have that situation we had back when we had over $100 million in cap space again. You're still going to have Christian Wilkins here more than likely. They're going to have a really, really good roster and be able to reload because Tyreek Hills and the Jalen Ramseys and the Xavier Howards might, we'll see what happens there, right? Like, I think, I'm on record as saying that I think Xavier Howard's probably going to play his last year in Miami this year. And, I think that's really, should be, pleasing to the fan base is that the Dolphins aren't going to go away just because they put a lot of money into Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey. But now's the time, Reason, where these first-round picks next year, these second-round picks next year, the third-round picks next year need to start meaning stuff. And you should start getting savvy and getting compensatory type of picks. You're not going to be as active in free agency next year. So if you don't sign a Zach Sealer, that's going to net you a 3rd-round pick. If you unfortunately Mike Gesicki and the tight end market didn't get paid, I don't even think we're going to get a comp pick for Mike Gesicki at this point, which is kind of, unfortunate. But I think now is the way that the draft is going to supplement this roster because they made 3 huge moves. Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Ramsey within like a 24, or within a 12-month calendar year. Like, that's just insane.
Yeah, that level of
insane because they're 3 of the best 6-7 players on the team.
And they're 3 guys you're not going to find those talent levels in the draft right now. You're just you got to be developed to get to those levels.
I'll take a shot here. I think by midway through next season, anyone that was doubting Bradley Chubb is going to be sadly mistaken. And I think Bradley Chubb is probably going to have his best year as a pro next year. That's my personal opinion. Coming with Fangio, having Jalen Phillips, after Von Miller left, it was a lot different for him in Denver. You know what I mean? I think young Jalen Phillips, he's obviously not probably the level of a Von Miller, but I think he's one of the top 3 young pass rushers in this game. That tandem right there is going to be awesome. So yeah. Bradley Chubb is going to actually turn out being a really, really good move. He moved into the neighborhood last year, got to know the neighbors, became part, of the neighborhood. And now it's time for him to go out there, and now earn his keep. And I think the way Miami structured his deal is beautiful. But yeah, they made, Chris Greer's made a lot of really good moves. The only complaint I have, Reason, fix this offensive line. Find me one more quality player.
Yeah, for sure. So ESPN, they had an article on draft fits and needs and stuff. I had to bring this up to you because they actually said our best prospect fit at 51 was Luke Musgrave. And I know you're we like the kids play, but it's the not so much work ethic, but it's the toughness rumblings we've heard about that make us a little bit weary of that player, especially because he also did, he had a season-ending knee injury right last year too. So taking him at 51 is a little bit of a risk, especially when there might be other guys on the board.
Right.
What are your before we get into the history of the picks here, when you look at that 51, are you gonna be, because that's kind of a risk. Do you want more of a sure bet starter at 51 than a risk? Is because I look at risks that's the dice you throw in the 4th and 5th round. You don't throw those in the 2nd or 3rd round as much as, especially when you only have 4 picks in the draft, right? It's not like we have 7 or 8 picks here.
For our team building purposes, Reason, we need someone who's going to make an instant impact. We don't have time for development. That doesn't fit our formula. And so with the Luke Musgrave thing, I think it's important to pay attention to the position, not the player, because that's identifying tight end as a need. And no shit, Sherlock. We let Gesicki go. We have Eric Salbre for 1 year. Tanner Connor can't catch balls when he's wide open. I mean, so tight ends are also typically one of the slowest development positions in the league. It takes a lot of time. With that said, that's why I moved Sam LaPorta to the front of the bus here. He is a smart guy. He has some serious athletic strengths as a pass catcher, which is, if we don't confuse him, we don't make him a guy that's going to learn, have to block, go out there and do what you have to do. You're going to put your hand in your dirt. You're going to line up in the slot. You're going to move all over. But when that ball's thrown to you, man, we need you to catch it. And we need you to catch touchdowns in the red zone. So I think that's why a guy like Sam LaPorta would jump out in the tight end position. Because a guy that I think they like a lot is Brenton Strange from Penn State.
Yeah.
And he's a physical guy who can move defenders. He needs some time to develop as a pass catcher. He's not.
That's what I'm saying. 84 is a little high. You could trade back and get him after 100, probably.
Right. Yeah. It depends. There's some teams that really like him. I mean, he's one of those guys, man. He was hampered by Sean Clifford. But I think what I'm saying is you need to get impact players here. And the Dolphins don't have a lot of positions that I would say are needs, right? They have positions where they could enhance. Offensive line's a pure need. Other than that, I would like a Jack Campbell, but I don't think linebacker at this point right now is a need. I don't think tight end and offensive line are the only 2 positions I think that are needs. And you need to get what you need to address those needs and get somebody that can play. I see Richard just asked a question. I don't think Michael Mayer drops to 51.
No.
To what we said last week, I'd move up and get a Michael Mayer. Yeah. I think the smart move for Miami here is to walk away with 1 really good player versus 2 guys that need time. Darnell Washington's there at 40. I'm figuring a way to move up. And maybe you don't trade 84. Maybe you trade a 3rd rounder next year. You just get smart with what you're doing. But keep an eye on that tight end market, because I'll say this. If we get to pick through the 1st round and only 1 tight end's gone, that means that either Dalton Kincaid, Darnell Washington, and Michael Mayer, 2 of those 3 players are still going to be on the board, and Sam LaPorta. If I'm the Dolphins, when number 2 goes,
you got to be weary of that run, because that run's coming.
Right. I'm moving up to number 3. That's what I'm doing. And then I have so let's just say it's Michael Mayer that goes first, then Dalton Kincaid. And I move up to 3 and I say, you know what? I'm taking Darnell or Sam LaPorta. That's winning the draft for me. Do what you did in free agency. Don't let the market come to you. Go out and get the players you want.
Yeah. Show conviction. Show some conviction.
And that could be Jahmyr Gibbs. If we walked away with nothing but Jahmyr Gibbs, that's an A+ draft for me. I don't need a guy in 3rd round that's going to be a 2nd or 3rd stringer, and we're going to go through these players. And honestly, in the 3rd round, it ain't good at pick 84 historically. You know what I mean? It's not good. But 51, there's 2 superstars at 51. So I don't know if you agree with me. Have a conviction. Go up and get a player if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I agree with it because they never showed it. Like they wanted to go up and get Tristan Wirfs, and they never showed the conviction to add in that extra pick. Like,
right.
So let's go over this. All right, let's talk about the 51st pick. Let's start with the 51st pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I'll read off some names. I'll list off some names for everyone because I went back to 2010 on both of these. So let's start off with the 51st pick, just so people have a history of what to expect historically hits and misses at 84 and 51. All right. Let's show people this stuff. All right. So oh man. Would you want me to start from 2022 or 2010 and work our way up?
Start from last year and go backwards.
Okay, so let's do that. So last year at 51, the Eagles took Cam Jurgens, center out of Nebraska, who I was actually quite high on. I'm sure you were high on too.
And I'm going to pull up he'd start on our line over Liam Eichenberg.
Yeah, that's for sure. The year before, remember this name who I was very, very high on? Remember, I really wanted this guy, Sam Cosmi. Remember,
right.
We would have solved our right tackle issue. Right? Remember, I said, well, Sam Cosmi's there, right tackle, and you don't have to spend a first-round pick. Stud, 51 Commanders, 2021. 2020, Cowboys. At 51, they took Trevon Diggs.
He's pretty good,
cornerback,
right?
Alabama. We're looking at some hits here. Right. 2019, Titans. A.J. Brown, wide receiver, Ole Miss. We're talking, is Greer going to add to 4 straight years of hits at that number, or is he going to be the one to break the curse? Because when you go to 2018, it starts to get a little weary.
Right.
Anthony Miller, wide receiver, Memphis. All the potential in the world just didn't work out with the Chicago Bears. Always injured. 2017, DeMarcus Walker, defensive end, Florida State, to the Broncos. That's it.
Average. Good player.
Yeah. He's not. Are you ready for the real one, though? 2016, the Jets, Christian Hackenberg, quarterback, State.
Oof.
2015, Browns, Nate Orchard, defensive end, Utah.
Yeah, he was. I liked him, but yeah.
2014, Bears, Ego Ferguson, defensive tackle, LSU.
Yep, I remember him.
2013, Washington, David Amerson, defensive back, NC State.
That guy used to pick a ton of balls off at NC State.
Yeah. And then what?
Yeah, got burnt in the NFL because he was slow.
2012 Packers, Jarrell Worthy, defensive tackle, Michigan State. 2011 Bucks, Daquan Bowers, defensive end, Clemson. And 2010 Vikings, Toby Gerhart, running back, Stanford.
Oh, Toby Gerhart from Stanford. Hell yeah, I remember Toby Gerhart.
All right, so we've gone on dating back to 2010. Now, my friend, the track record the last 4 years is something to behold. Jurgens, Sam Cosmi, Trevon Diggs, A.J. Brown.
Right.
That gives us a lot of hope that we're going to get a day one, not starter, but impact player at 51. That tells you right there, all Dolphin fans who are just, casual draft fans, nothing wrong with that, casual draft fans or whatever. That tells you right there are impact players available at 51, no excuses.
Right. I agree.
What are your thoughts on that list, Neil? Because there's some good names.
100%. I think that's encouraging to see. And you see 2 quality offensive linemen there that again makes a lot of sense. I remember AJ Brown falling in 2019 and just being like, what are we missing here? Trevon Diggs, obviously watched him at Alabama, but it gives you hope that you can go out there and get a bona fide superstar. AJ Brown's a superstar. Look what he did for the Eagles this year. So you go out there, and that's where I think that pick is so important. This pick, 51 this year, is really important for Miami. You got to hit that pick, Reason. You can't miss it. Chris Greer has to make a good educated pick there.
I agree. All right. Now let's look at the 84th pick. You ready for these names? We'll start at 2022 as well. All right.
Buckle up with this one.
The Steelers, DeMarvin Leal, defensive lineman, Texas A&M. Now, actually, I was kind of high on DeMarvin Leal coming out, so
Me
I'm not
too.
gonna
I mean, there
knock
was
that.
mock drafts that had him as a top 10 pick when we first got into the draft cycle. So he was a good player. He a little undersized, but I actually think he played pretty decently for Pittsburgh last year. In some,
I did,
I think he played pretty well.
2021 Cowboys, Chauncey Golston, defensive end, Iowa.
Yep.
2020 Rams, Terrell Lewis, outside linebacker, Alabama. Which I actually had high hopes for that kid, and he kind of. 2019 Chiefs, Kalen Sanders, defensive tackle in Western Illinois.
He's still playing.
Yeah,
he's got a ring this year, right?
2018 Chargers, Justin Jones, defensive tackle, NC State. Here we go. 2017 Bucks, Chris Godwin, wide receiver, Penn State.
That's a good pick.
And the year before that, Redskins in 2016, Will Fuller, cornerback, Virginia Tech.
Kendall Fuller.
Oh, sorry, Kendall Fuller. I apologize. My bad.
Yep.
Well, I wrote down Will. And then the year before that, another good pick. Eagles, Jordan Hicks, linebacker, Texas.
Yep.
But then we get back into the void. 2014 Cardinals, Kareem Martin, defensive end, North Carolina. 2013 Bengals, Sean Williams, safety, Georgia.
No.
Here is one for you. 2012 Ravens, Bernard Pierce, running back, Temple. 2011 Bucks, Mason Foster, linebacker, Washington. And then 2010 Bengals, Jordan Shipley, wide receiver, Texas. So clearly a better track record with 51 and 84, but still you see some names there. Kendall Fuller, Chris Godwin, Kalen Sanders. There's DeMarvin Leal. There's names that are going to be available that you might be able to squeak something out there. And see, when you start getting to the third, fourth, fifth round, that's when I think the GMs really make their money. And that's where you really earn your reputation if you're good at drafting, in my opinion.
Right. I think Greer's got to hit 51 out of the park and find a guy that is a good player. We need two good players in this draft. And I don't like that 6th and 7th round. Like, honestly, you look at the history of it, man, you're probably getting people that are practice squad type of players.
They're UDFAs. They're glorified UDFAs, right?
Especially in this horrible draft class, right? So what I would do is I would 100% leverage future picks and late picks to move up the draft board. I wouldn't pick at 84. Maybe I stay at 51 and I move up from 84 to like 70. I find out the players that are on my board that I have a conviction about, and I go get them. So we say it's Sam LaPorta, right? We both say that. If the Dolphins could walk away with any player in this draft, personally, based off the things I've heard, I think they'd want Darnell Washington. That's the guy I think they want.
Which would be amazing. I just don't think I think Darnell has a chance of being the first tight end off the board.
Yeah, I could see Green Bay at 15 taking him. That's how good he is.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me. But I think that's the guy they want, because when you talk about a guy who's an extension of your offensive line, right?
That's him. Yeah.
You know, because that honestly makes dealing with Austin Jackson easier. You know what I mean? Like, because Darnell Washington will stonewall and take defenders' souls from him. Like, that's what he does. He is an athletic freak. He's like a one of one. Like, he's a guy that they're going to have. So, like, and look, they have a what pick do they lose next year, Reason? Do they not have a third next year? Is it that they traded in the Tyreek or something trade? What pick did they lose last? Because I know they have their first and second. They lost a third or a fourth, but whatever it is, use those other picks, man, and move up. Get the guys you want. Go get the guys you want. And you know, we're naming names here, but there's a lot of good players that are going to be on the board here. Osiris Torrance, who's a guard from Florida, could be an absolute stud. I saw someone today on Twitter compare him to Brandon Brooks, who is a multi-time All-Pro from the Eagles. Like, it doesn't just have to be the names we're saying on here. There's a lot of good offensive linemen, especially on the interior, that the Dolphins should look at. And the tight end position, this is the best class in over a decade. These are the markets you should be in. We talked about running back. You can't have 20 good running backs in a draft and need a running back and not take one of them. So it's one of those things that you have to, like, there's 3 positions I think we need to walk away with, and we only have 2 picks. Let's see if Chris Grier can magically make some picks appear like he's done in the past. I don't know if there's a player on draft day that they can trade. Even getting back in the 4th round to me, Reason, would be something that would get me excited because I think one of those good running backs you named is going to be there in round 4. So get the tight end in round 2, get the offensive lineman in round 3, then get the running back in round 4. You gotta attack it that way. I hope they don't go with just 4 picks to this draft, and that's their approach.
But don't you get the feeling that it's going to be?
I think they're going to get another pick. I don't think it's going to be a first rounder or a second rounder by any chance. I think they're going to get a 3rd or 4th in a trade for something. And I don't know what that is yet. Thinking out loud, like, who knows where they are with Emmanuel Ogbah. They said that they're never looking to restructure him. That wasn't even on the table, which tells me that.
Same with Baker.
Yeah, they're not going to restructure him. That tells me that they're not long-term players. I think Jerome Baker is going to be here. I think they like him. I think they like what he's going to do in the Fangio defense, actually. I think they have some – because he could be like a movable chess piece for Fangio. But I think also Ogbah, does it get you a 4th with that contract? I don't know. Maybe it's a future pick, though, Reason. Maybe it's trading a 3rd next year to get a 4th this year. Maybe it's trading back at 51 to the late 2nd round and picking up a 3rd. Maybe it's trading – in 3rd round, pick 84 to a team like the 49ers that have literally 3 3rd-round picks at 99, 101, and 102 and getting 2 of those to move up. That's what I'd be paying attention. I'd stand pat at 51, trade back at 84, and take 2 late 3rd rounders. And that's, get 3 players that are in your top 100 and call it a night.
And we wanted to say, before people start, because the clickbait videos are coming and the people trying to spin narratives and because they got agendas at play who lie to these people. Before people try to say that Tyreek Hill was taking shots at Tua over the best availability, don't let them fool you. He was responding to a tweet that he had just before that where he said, small receivers, run your route, get upfield and get down. They coming to take your head off. That's what he was talking about. All right. So he was not taking. So before people, because people out here are going to try and spin it and say he was taking shots at Tua, but no, he was talking about all these people trying to take smaller receivers' heads off. So protect yourself so you can be available. So just before people start lying to you and spinning false narratives, had to let y'all know what the deal was, because I know they won't show you the other tweet. They'll only talk about the one tweet. These people like to leave out context because it makes their narratives fit a little bit better. So just wanted to shout that out and point that out to all of y'all.
I went to Target today. You have Targets in Canada?
They tried to come here a couple years ago and they failed.
Oh wow! So Target's big here. I mean, retail stuff.
It's amazing.
I went to Target today, and it's my son's birthday next weekend, so I always hop down the toy aisle, see what I can find. Monopoly was $19.99 today, and I love that game. Go get Marvin Gardens, go get Pennsylvania Avenue, Boardwalk. I think a lot of these people on Twitter that make their obsession with Tua should go buy Monopoly. Enjoy hanging out with your family.
No, they should take a look in the mirror when they start calling other people Tuaneers, because they're the ones who constantly tweet about them, talk about them on spaces and panels for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. They're the ones that are the actual Tuaneers. They're the things that they claim they hate the most. It's hilarious. The irony is hilarious. But they're going to spin Tyreek was talking about Tua, so that's why I had to show those tweets. Me and you talked about it before we went live. I had to show that he was talking about receivers, not Tua Tagovailoa, because these people who like to lie to our fan base. That's why I get bent out of shape about it, because they're literally lying to our fan base.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm thankful that Twitter wasn't around when Jay Fiedler was his quarterback or some of the names, because I don't think. No one is here saying that Tua is the best quarterback in football. I've never said that. You've never said that. I'm not naive enough to think that he's as good as a Patrick Mahomes. I don't think anyone in the league is. I think there's a huge drop-off from Mahomes at 1 to whoever's at 2. For me, it's Joe Burrow. It's my second quarterback. And I think there's a drop-off a little bit to Josh Allen at 3. And then after that, man, you're falling off a cliff into the next tier where it's guys for me, and I'm just blunt. It's Lamar Jackson. It's Tua for me. It's Justin Herbert. I'm forgetting guys because I'm doing this off the top of my head. But the point I'm trying to make here is you have a guy that you don't need the best quarterback in football to win. You have a guy that is an unbelievable dude off the field.
But he can also give you top 3 production in this offense.
While everyone on the Twitter that hates him is talking shit about him, the dude's literally busting his ass every single day to get better, adding muscle mass, taking jiu-jitsu, doing anything he can do to get out there and be the best quarterback he can for this team. It's funny, man. It's like if you coach your kid sports and he's on a team and he's not the best player on the team, are you going to not love your kid? Like it's such a stupid mentality that I see out here where it's like, for me, being a part of the Dolphins community, this team, like that's like a family, right? And, we're in this together. And, Tua is the most important person in that family.
You know why people they better watch what they say, because in those first 11 games, heading into that bye week, I did a show. He gave everyone Matt Ryan level of production. MVP 2016, Matt Ryan level of production in this offense. And that was year 1, third-year player. What do you think year 2, fourth-year player in this offense is going to produce? He just showed that his ceiling's higher than that if he already hit that in year 1. What do you think he's going to do this year? People better be and I know they prey on his downfall, which is even sadder, because when you prey on his downfall, you're technically preying on the downfall of the logo you claim you love, which we all know is a lie.
Right.
So,
but what the thing that frustrates me though is the guys that are the loudest right now during the season when Tua's playing, they don't say anything. They're just loud now. They're only loud in the offseason. They doubted how he played on the football field last year.
Remember, they were quiet all year, and then they kept moving the goalpost, and then when we struggled a little bit in December, all of a sudden that was now the goalpost.
Right now it's like his injuries, and then they went from saying he's a good quarterback. It's sad. I know a lot of us, and I'm seeing them in the comments, we're all thinking about the same 4 to 5 guys out there. It's as pathetic as a grown-up can act at this age in their life. It's sad.
Bro, they're not real men. They can never admit when they're wrong, and they act like children, like they act like high school children. It's just, anyways, let's move on here, because I don't want to
go to the rabbit.
I wanted to ask you this. Okay? You saw this tweet from Ian Rappaport. I know you did. Despite TCU star Kendre Miller not working on a pro day, he, as he recovers from the MCL injury, suffered in the playoff win. He's ahead of schedule and had meetings yesterday with the Dolphins, Jags, Patriots, and then with the Cardinals and the Texans. So, straight up, we're name dropped there. All right, we're straight up name dropped on Kendre Miller. And then you go look at what, if people didn't see it, Barry Jackson put on an article today entitled "Where Dolphins Depth Chart Stands on Offense and Noted at Each Position." And running back, he said, there's a chance an impressive late-round rookie or undrafted player could beat out Gaskin. If Miami drafts a running back at 51 or 84, then Gaskin should be in trouble. So he's covered all of his bases, 51, 84, a late draft pick, or even a UDFA. Seems like Barry's getting the sense that they're targeting running back potentially here as well. So do you think, we know tight ends are, we got a feeling offensive line is, do you think running back is in the draft plans for the Miami Dolphins if it fits and works for them in terms of if a player falls in their lap at a pick, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, you know why I do think that reason? Because I know they want Dalvin Cook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know they want Dalvin Cook really, really bad. I think that $13.6 million in June that's freeing up is their contingency plan to get Dalvin Cook, because I think that they want a slashing, dynamic, explosive running back in this team. They want a guy who's younger that can hit those holes and they can go, cloud of dust. Devin A-Chain is a guy, I don't have any sources or anyone telling me this. I look at a guy like Devin A-Chain and I'm like, God, Mike McDaniel sees that guy, gets him in this offense.
Yeah.
Good night. Like that's where, them trying to trade for Dalvin Cook tells me yes. And they kept the conversations going. Even when they signed Mostert and Jeff Wilson, those deals are really glorified one-year deals. They don't have a long-term answer there. They are going to be looking at running backs. If Jahmyr Gibbs falls, that guy will be the pick. They're looking for Jahmyr Gibbs. That's who they want. He does everything that they want. And, he's the 8th best player in this draft on my board. I think he's a special type of player. And that's back to that conviction point. Man, would you want Sam LaPorta and Tyler Steen, who's a good draft, a really good draft? For me, that would be probably a B+. But if you go up and get me Jahmyr Gibbs, you're getting an A. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have Jahmyr Gibbs than those two players. And that's just seeing a special talent there. So I think, yeah, they're looking at running backs. Kendrick Miller, a guy who's only going to be around in the 6th round because of injury. That guy's unbelievable runner, patient, good vision, ability to cut, make people miss. Like, he's a good player. They're going to add a running back to this team. It's just a matter of when. And then you can't, no one knows how the draft board's going to fall. If we see Bijan Robinson, who's falling, just say like it's Dallas is on the clock, you know what I mean? And that's when the first running back goes. Yeah. Like, it's going to tell you a story that, like, running backs could just fall. And you talk about these positions and it sounds like a pipe dream. And I've learned, man, that you can't disqualify a running back falling because it happens every year.
Okay, so let's bring up that article because there's a couple points I want to go over here with you.
Yeah, I didn't even see it. It's Barry Jackson, you said?
Yeah, so he went over, as you can see here, where the Dolphins depth chart stands on offense and notes of each position. So that's what he said at running back. This is what he said at wide receiver. Part we know, the other part we didn't. The Dolphins could trade Wilson this offseason and reduce his cap hit from $8 million to $2 million or $1 million, depending on the timing of the trade. They're open to that, but they're also okay with having him on the team, according to an involved source. So that tells you, what does that tell me? They've tested the market. They don't and no one wants them, and they don't like what they are hearing for what people are offering them. All right.
Yep.
Now,
makes sense.
This is what they said about tight end. Look for 1 or 2 more additions at the position in April. Dolphins coaches, staffers are working on several tight ends projected to go in rounds 2 through 4 of the draft. The agent for one prominent tight end who's no longer available said the Dolphins front office did not want to allocate much money for the position.
Irv Smith?
Yeah. Or Foster Moreau or someone. So that tells you, like, they're thinking about potentially, if they're going guys that are projected in the 4th, they're probably entertaining trading back and trying to accumulate another pick.
Right.
Interesting thing here about the offensive line. Check this one out. The Dolphins will likely add another right tackle at some point, either a veteran or a player in the 2nd or 3rd round. Now they're openly coming out, and Barry's openly saying, yeah, they're probably going to take one with one of the first 2 picks. Remember, we're all convinced a couple weeks ago, linebacker, tight end. Now tackles becoming a legitimate option here in the 2nd or 3rd round. Why does that matter? Why am I pointing that out, Neil? Because just like Gaskin, if they draft a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round at right tackle, do you really think Austin Jackson is going to beat out the handpicked guy by Frank Smith and Mike McDaniel that they drafted? Hell to the no. That's goodbye, Austin. Enter the battle of left guard with Eichenberg.
Right. Well, like, all that stuff Barry says makes a lot of sense, and it's kind of mirroring a lot of things we said, right? Like, running back, tight end, offensive line really sees where this draft is going to be. I think they said, you know what, Vic, we're going to take care of you in free agency. We're going to add Jalen. We're going to add David Long Jr., right? You're going to get Emmanuel Ogbah back healthy. We're going to add Duke Riley back. We're going to bring in Deshaun Elliott, and we haven't talked about Deshaun Elliott yet, but we're bringing in Deshaun Elliott. We've added a lot of good resources to the defensive side of the ball, right? Like, you saw that one chart that came out, and the Dolphins, based off this one chart with the points that this dude did, Mike Clay, who's a smart guy, Dolphins had the number 1 ranked defense in the league, I think, right? Like, it was something crazy like that, or 1 or 2, and I was like, whoa. So, like, they've done a lot to the defense. I think they want to finalize the offense. And that's where, they're smart, man. They're going to have a big board in the background. They're going to have all their running backs. They're going to have all their offensive line, and they're going to have all their tight end. And they know what they have at all those positions. The barest cover to me is actually tight end. Then it's offensive line. Then it's running back. The reason I go to the running back position, why I want it so bad, is because of the class and because I know what a dynamic running back would do for Tua Tagovailoa. And so that's where it is. But tight end, it makes so much sense. Durham Smith's a free agent after this year. Eric Salbe is a free agent after this year. I mean, Tanner Connor's Tanner Connor. Everyone can talk about your potential. When they talk about your potential, that means you haven't produced. You know what I mean? Like, that's so that's where I am in all of it. So I think it's going to be an interesting offseason. but I'm pumped, man, because that gets me excited because those positions are really, really good in round 2.
So what are your final thoughts before we get out of here? I've already given my stuff on Deshaun Elliott. He actually responded. He actually replied to that Full Metal Jacket video on Instagram.
What did he say? I didn't see
that. On Instagram. It was on Instagram.
Okay.
He responded with a crying face because he was crying laughing.
I'm going to say something. First of all, it's a bonehead comment. It's a lack of awareness. You don't make those comments that when you're a new guy in town. So
yeah.
I think it's stupid. I think he knows that. He should have took the tweet down right away, which he did end up doing. He should have apologized publicly and said, this has nothing to do about Tua. Like, I'll say this. I live in Baltimore. I know this for sure. When Lamar Jackson was going out to dinner, Deshaun Elliott was one of his guys. That was a guy that was in his clan that was always out with him. They were together. They were tight. A lot of these players here in Baltimore, I can speak for that the players that I know, that I see out, that I've talked to, they feel bad for the situation Lamar Jackson's in right now. There is a players kind of mutiny behind the scenes where they're standing up for their boy. You've seen a lot of players come out lately and start talking about it. I saw DJ Reader, who's a competitor today, who said, are you guys really dogging number 8 like that? So it's like, I think Deshaun Elliott was trying to do a solid, but he really lacked awareness when doing so. I think the notion of cutting him is nuts because I'll say this, and I'll see a lot of comments disagree. Deshaun Elliott's a better player than Brandon Jones for me. I think Deshaun Elliott is the second best safety on this team. I think he's going to end up getting more snaps than Brandon Jones when it's all said and done at the end of the season. He makes big plays on the football. He will light up people. He's the only person I've ever seen make Derrick Henry look as vulnerable as he did in that playoff game. So I wish that he would come out and say he's sorry, but I don't want to cut him off the team because he said that. For a guy like Tua, maybe it's more fuel. Like, let me prove this new guy wrong. And I hope that in practice, Deshaun Elliott pedals a couple extra steps because that Tua is going to be gunning Waddle and Hill over his head after those type of comments. But, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It seems like it's died down a little bit. Your video reason was freaking hilarious. I made the mistake of watching it while I was drinking a Coke Zero. And, when you inhale soda the wrong way and it like burns your heart and you feel like you're having a heart attack, I was like literally almost on the ground on my knees, like thinking I was dying when I watched it. But yeah, I mean, like, so, kind of the next few shows after this, we're going to be doing a lot of draft talk. We're going to get into the draft. By the time we connect next time, we're going to be less than 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. It's a glorious time of year. You're going to see more and more of these workouts and, boards are going to flip out. I can't wait because I know that come in 3 weeks, the Dolphins are going to be a better football team than they were going into that draft. How much better is what gets you excited? It's the ultimate gamble. I know I sit there with a list and I got my guys that I want for the Dolphins. My list for the Dolphins is not my big board. My list for my Dolphins is the guys that I know that will fit well on this team. And when one of them goes right before we pick, man, it's like you lose a part of your soul. You know what I mean? Like, it happens. It was the running back situation when we drafted Roquan Davis. I wanted J.K. Dobbins so bad. I wanted Dobbins so bad. I had him as like the 20th player in that. I think you're on mute, Reason. You might be on mute. I
wanted Jonathan Taylor, and we took Noah Benogany.
Right. Yeah, right. So it's like it's one of those things, man. But I love the draft. It is my favorite sporting event of the entire year. That and the Dolphins opener are my 2 favorite sports things of the year. So fins up, man. And, we're going to be here. I will be releasing my draft guide. I don't know if anyone saw the tweet, but I'm releasing it. I am requesting $2 for it, not for my pocket. It's going to go right to my aunt's GoFundMe. My aunt's battling breast cancer. She's getting through her rounds of chemo as we speak. So it was something I was going to send out to everyone at no cost, but I figured if I can help support my, family in any way, it's going to be over 100 pages. It's going to be my positional rankings, my big board, 7-round mock draft. I already have a top 50 big board for the 2024 draft. Hint, hint, there's a quarterback from Southern California who's number 1 and a quarterback from North Carolina who's number 2. But it's kind of my year work. I will definitely tweet it out next week. That's where you find it.
I'm gonna buy 10 copies of them, and we're gonna hand them out in the comments here, see how that goes over. And if y'all have a good response to it, we'll grab another 10 copies and we'll hand them out. So we'll donate the money and he'll provide the copies and I'll provide the links I'll pick people out of the comments and I'll provide you guys Neal's draft guide. So
Yeah,
just a
absolutely.
way to get more eyes on it and more people and more feedback. So yeah, be on the lookout for that, man.
Well, and the last thing I'll say, Reason, is I just really appreciate all the support that we've been getting when we get done these shows. I'm getting direct messages and people messaging me how great they like our show. We love this community. We love being a part of it. Like engaging with you guys is what it's fun. It's fun to cheer for a football team and enjoy the highs together. And look, sometimes you got to go through the lows. I always say I live my fandom kind of like Andy Dufresne and Shawshank Redemption. Sometimes you got to get on your hands and knees and crawl through 3 football fields of what to get to the other side. And we've had some tough years as Dolphin fans, and now the things are heading in the right direction. I hate to see those people that want to bring this community down. That's why, I myself try to grow and become more positive. And,
but they pull us back in, Neal. So
they do. I mean, look, guys, I tweet and delete a lot. Because I'm a father and I got to, I don't want anyone trying to get me fired from my job and stuff like that's happened in the past. So, you got to be careful. But just thank you guys for being, great. You guys kind of, it's fun to do this. And, I read these comments and I'm laughing and, I know we all just want to win. And, we really appreciate the support. And, that's why, it's not the most active time of the year, but we're going to bring content every week because we think it's important. And, it always helps you look at the game a little bit deeper, right? Like Reason texted me today, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, damn, we haven't signed anyone in like 4 days, 4 weeks, it's been weeks. So it's like, what are we going to talk about tonight? But, it's looking at the game different, getting deeper into it, getting in the weeds. And, if there's anything you guys do want us to cover, man, shoot us messages. We engage. Like, anytime I see someone send me a message, I follow that person back. And, I want to engage. I want to hear what you guys want to talk about. Obviously, when the Dolphins make their next big move and they go and bring in, someone that we didn't see coming next week, the week right before the draft, we'll have an emergency podcast and have to talk about it. But yeah, let us know what you guys want to talk about. Players, draft prospects, like we'll break those things up because that's, we're film nerds, man. We watch that stuff all the time. That's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to go and look. I've been watching Sam LaPorta, and I'm like, damn, those movement skills. And that's where I literally was like, man, that's Mark Andrews out there.
All right, guys. So we'll be back next week. I'm going to be back Sunday in the day for my tight end big board. If you don't see me Sunday in the day, I won't be at night because WrestleMania. So then you'll see me on Monday. But I'm aiming for Sunday in the day for the tight end big board to come out. Man, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and hey, keep your eyes on Twitter in the next 10-15 minutes. All right, because your boy, they had to mention my name and bring out the old Reason. So we about to go in. All right. So I appreciate all y'all for coming through. I love each and every one of y'all. As always, fins up all day, every day. We'll see all of y'all on the next one.